I don't know if he's just a pathological liar, or he's delusional. But the man genuinely says things that just are not factually true.
Quanta.
Hello and welcome back to Just Another Football Podcast. We have a sack race, ladies and gentlemen. We have a sack race, and the three contenders are Mauricio Pochettino. We're not talking about Chelsea this week. The channel is full of episodes and videos about Chelsea. You can, if you want Chelsea talk, you can just check those out, like and subscribe. Ten Hag, which is our big topic for today, and the lack of any managerial ability in the whole of Manchester United Football Club, it seems like. And Sean Dyche, Harry, he won in Everton. You won at Goodison Park. Strange feeling, isn't
Everton. Is Everton a place? Did we win in Everton, or is it in Liverpool? We're like,
did I say in Everton? I meant to say at Everton.
We won at Everton. We have won at Everton.
English.
Which, yeah, it's all right. It's a nice feeling, mate. I tell you, it's not one I'm particularly familiar with.
It was funny, the graphic that came up pre-match, and it was all the managers that they played against as well, and it's just
they've had like five.
The list of managers. Duncan Ferguson was in there. I think he got a draw, and or did he get a win? Maybe I can't remember.
No, it was 0-0. I remember that. There was 0-0.
Duncan Ferguson won against Chelsea in his first game.
Looking at all the manager Everton had.
Yeah, well. Harry, I'll start with you, I guess, and just very quickly on Arsenal, because there are certain narratives about Arsenal, right? That it's been a slowish start to the season. You don't exactly have everything figured out tactically. I watched the second half. I feel like you were so comfortable. You should have won by a lot more if better decisions were taken by the forwards, and they weren't rushing their finishes and rushing to score a goal, because they had a goal to sell out in the first half as well. Do you agree with that at all? Do you feel like you have things figured out now, and you're starting to see a trend here?
It's been a common theme in our game so far. Our control has been largely excellent, I think, across the 5 games. Someone put the graphic up after the game of our field tilt, which is basically how much time you're spending in the opposition's third of the pitch, so you're attacking third. And for all but the Palace game, where we were down to 10 men, it was over 80%. So it tells you that, like, largely we're playing in the areas we want to be playing in. It's just been the execution so far. I think there's been a lot of changes. Like, I don't think we've named the same 11 in any game so far yet. So I'm not surprised that the dynamics of the team have been a little bit off in some games. I think it's just kind of learning those combinations and putting it all together. But what we are seeing is the emergence of a squad rather than a sort of core 11 plus maybe 1 or 2 that you're happy to rely on. It seems like we've now got kind of 16 or 17 that are firmly in the fold. So I think that's encouraging. I think the other thing is, obviously, there's a big game next week. If we win that game, it'll be 5 wins and a draw to start the season. And as well as we started last season, we actually lost our 6th game last year. So it would represent a better start were we to win next week. And obviously, it's a big if, and we've got to get that done. But we've been getting results, we've been controlling games, despite, and it's a fair perception, our games haven't been thrilling to watch. I think partly because we haven't quite been executing in attack, but we've had good control of matches. We've won a couple of tricky away games. We beat United at home. No real complaints so far. I think obviously we have to see how the Champions League kind of affects us with the midweek games, and then the games are sort of following on from that. But I'm pretty happy with it so far. You can never complain beating Everton. We infrequently do that, as terrible as they are. It seems like we always sort of run into the best version of them. So pleased to get the win and be able to laugh at some other teams this weekend.
Yeah, you mentioned something crucial there, is the emergence of a squad, and the fact they have 16 or 17 players, that, as you mentioned, on the fold. And we'll get to some Champions League previews, as I mentioned, but remember the preseason previews? I called Arsenal to go far in the Champions League, maybe to the quarterfinals, potentially the quarterfinals. And I think that is a big reason why that you'll be able to have a strong starting 11 in a Champions League week, like in the midweek on a Wednesday night, and then have a strong 11 in the league the following weekend. So David Raya started. David Raya is a Premier League starting caliber goalkeeper, and Aaron Ramsdale is on the bench today. So there's that rotation too. It's like when we had Mignolet and Loris Karius, but this time you actually have two good goalkeepers.
Two keepers we like. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, it reminded me of having two first team goalkeepers, which I think is really smart. But yeah, I'd be very optimistic.
It's going to be interesting how that works. Like the swapping out of a goalkeeper. Like when do you choose to swap them out? If a goalkeeper has a bad game, is that when you swap it? Because then that's kind of like knocks the goalkeeper a bit. But then if the goalkeeper's playing well, do you swap it then? I'm not totally opposed to this idea of having two goalkeepers, but it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
It will be. I will say the way it played out at Liverpool in 17-18. That's obviously the year of the Loris Karius Champions League final, the infamous performance. The way it played out is Karius started the season, I'm pretty sure. Or it could have been Mignolet, and then Karius played a few league games, one against Arsenal early on in the season, and then he played some Champions League games, and then like by October it settled where Mignolet starts the league games and Karius starts the cup games, and that's kind of how it played out for the rest of the season. If that ends up happening at Arsenal, then you're in a really good spot, but you're already in a good spot, and it will just be up to Mikel Arteta really just to manage expectations for both goalkeepers. And I wonder what David Raya was told when he got there and when he signed for Arsenal, what his playing time was going to look like. Can I jump to Everton before we get to talk about Man United real quickly? Because there's this graphic that showed on Sky Sports that I saw on Twitter where they're like 20th in all the attacking numbers in terms of chance conversion, actual number of goals scored, big chances missed, and like shots on target, I think it was. They're just dead last in all of those. Is it luck or is it genuinely just a bad team? Because Chelsea, and I don't want to talk about Chelsea today, but they have this problem too of just not finishing chances, and they're just massively underperforming. But surely it's just far beyond luck at this point, even with Beto arriving, right?
So are you going against the stats?
I'm not going against the stats. I'm just saying the stats tell you that they're just bad. It's not luck. It's just awful. It's like when Liverpool won the league and were way overperforming their expected goals numbers. And people, including Rob Turner, were saying that they were lucky. But then it goes beyond luck when you're overperforming that much and you're just phenomenal at scoring goals, which is why you won the league so comfortably. And your goalkeeper is a phenomenal goalkeeper, which is why you prevented so many goals. With Everton, on the other hand, they're just bad at conceding chances and bad at scoring them. Really awfully bad, which is why they'll go down. Right?
You just want us to say Everton are bad. Basically,
No,
this is a leading question.
I feel like if these stats were for Fulham, I think you'd be going, it's plucky Fulham, and the luck will come around. Once so and so gets one, he'll start.
I don't think
putting
so.
it in the net. I think you're picking and choosing when you're sort of looking at the stats favorably.
I don't think so. I do not think so. It just hasn't happened that way yet.
The only thing to say is at this point in the season, it's unreliable to look at the stats. Not enough of a sample size as well.
Yeah, it's only 5 games.
10
games is when you really start to look at that in a big way.
So that's something to take into account as well. Because I did see Tifo do a short look at the stats and the metrics, and they were looking at like the shot maps, and Everton's shot map was pretty good in the compared to Spurs. It was quite similar.
Yes,
and So yeah, then at the end they were like, well, it's a bit unreliable going off based off about 5 games. But it's I think the thing is Beto does look decent. It didn't really have much of a chance today. Like Arsenal were comfortable, but are Everton expecting to get points off of Arsenal? That a 1-0 defeat that was tight enough.
Yeah, they are.
They are.
I know the record
At
says
home.
that, but I like I don't think that realistically they would have went into that game with a lot of confidence. So it's the other games that they'll be looking to get from.
Well, you
Okay.
say that, not to linger on this. Prior to today, Everton had the easiest schedule for the first 4
Yeah.
games of the season.
Sure.
Statistically, played the easiest schedule of anyone. Only picked up a point, lost the 2 home games. So that's the worrying part, is they've actually played some of the worst teams in the league and not put points on the board. So it's not going to get any easier for them. They're not a good football team, no doubt, but there could be 3 worse. I think that's what we said prior to the season, and I kind of still think that. So not much unexpected there.
Yeah, I think there's only 2 that could be worse, but
Are Manchester United one of them?
Are Manchester United one of them? That is a great question. You know what they might be worse at? PR. They may be worse at PR. There is no managerial skill in the entire leadership structure of Manchester United Football Club. This is absurd, the way they've handled the last 18 months, let's say. So you have obviously the whole Mason Greenwood thing, and how they lied to us and were like, oh, we're cutting relations with Mason Greenwood, we're going to terminate his contract, and guess what? He's on loan, and he made an appearance at Espanyol today. And so there's that, and it's just, I feel like it's not being talked about enough, the fact that they lied about the situation, and the fact that they mentioned that he's been cleared when he hasn't been, well, factually. But then comes the Anthony stuff, which, we don't know enough about that yet. But Jadon Sancho coming at the same time, which this is very dangerous to say, but is there a coincidence there in terms of publicly ousting Jadon Sancho at the same time the Anthony stuff is happening, and very soon after the Mason Greenwood stuff happened? In terms of getting the general public eye shifted towards that Sancho situation? And why have they even done this to a player that's contracted to a football club? Like,
they weren't in control of what Sancho tweeted in response to being left out of the squad, I think is important to mention. So therefore, their response to that, I suppose you can't attribute towards what you're saying. I think obviously what you can infer from his tweet is he feels like he's been held to a different standard to other people at the football club. And I don't want to sort of look at it any deeper than that. It could just be for footballing reasons that he's saying something like that. But the crux of it is it leaves them in a really bad position. They're already stretched as it is with their squad. Anthony wasn't exactly setting the world on fire, but if you've not got him there, you've not got Sancho there. They didn't actually play with an orthodox winger at the weekend against Brighton. It doesn't leave them in a good position, and I think you're right to mention they kind of haven't handled any of these particularly well publicly. So, when you're not getting results and you're not handling stuff well off the pitch, it's a really bad combination for, let's be real, like the biggest club in the country. They're not kind of behaving as such, and just really messy at the moment. There's a lot going on there, and not a lot of it is good, really.
And listen, last season they were in a similar spot when they lost 4-0 to was it Brentford, and then they lost in a really bad way to Brighton, I think back to back. And
first 2 games.
Yeah, we were talking about similar, like just like the way they've handled squad building and stuff. This year, it's the same problem of a slow start, and maybe we're just overanalyzing. As we said with Everton, with a small sample size, but this feels a little bit different in terms of the toxicity and the atmosphere there. Last year it was Cristiano Ronaldo, of course, and the way Ten Hag didn't handle having him well, and Ronaldo's performances himself and his attitude problems and all of that, blah blah blah. But this year it's problems on a bigger scale. I feel like it's like a player they bought for 75 million or whatever it was the same summer Ronaldo was bought, and now just isn't featuring after missing so much of last season, and two players being embroiled in legal problems, and it just feels a lot bigger. I don't know what the question would be really, but like, how do the board handle this, and how does Ten Hag? There was suggested that Ten Hag is like being unlucky because he's dealing with all of this at once, but like at the same time, Ten Hag is the one that initiated the Jadon Sancho problems by saying that he's just not good enough in training, just publicly like that, which is something Jose Mourinho used to do, and it was a similar toxic atmosphere at Man United because of that, because players were getting called out publicly, and players are just like really big brands now who won't take this, as well as maybe some other players in the past have.
I don't know if Ten Hag's come out of that bit badly though, because the week that he says it, Jadon Sancho's then photographed partying in New York. So in terms of like the PR between Sancho and Ten Hag, or Sancho and Man United versus each other, I think Jadon Sancho's lost that PR battle. I think in the eyes of Man United fans, Ten Hag has more credit in the bank than Sancho does. And they're going to be probably more inclined to back what he's saying. It is right. It didn't really need to be said. The issue is that there's no quick fixes for both of these. Is the main issue. It's either, unless Sancho all of a sudden starts playing really well, that would be the only quick fix for that one. And then they've got the Anthony stuff, which I haven't, literally just only see the headlines about it. Don't know anything about it really. But like that's not going to be fixed easily at all. But yeah, Sancho's move has just been really disappointing. It's actually funny that the player that was compared to him whenever it come through was Hudson-Odoi. It was that Sancho and Hudson-Odoi were like the two sort of the same age group, and both of them have just fizzled out, unfortunately. But Sancho got his big move and got everything going for him. And even with a new manager who likes a winger, likes a bit of a flair player as well, because he wanted somebody like Anthony, but looks at Sancho and goes, "No, you're not good enough." So he's, without knowing what's actually going on, but it does seem like Sancho maybe just needs to block out the noise and just focus on playing football. Even if your manager is the one that's creating the noise.
Jadon Sancho as well, just to remember this because I feel like it's relevant. Last season, the management team at Man United, I think it might have been Ten Hag in a press conference, mentioned some physical and mental health problems, that he came back after a while and there was this massive standing ovation, because hey, look who
he went on a training camp to the Netherlands for a bit, like to get him up to speed, and then he was brought back. So it does look as though like Ten Hag has had patience with him, and that's what makes it not look as good for Sancho, was that there's a guy that his manager did back him, did understand him, had patience with him, sort of gave him treatment that nobody else had, and go away and get extra training, come back, and you'll be reintegrated. All of that's happened, and he just hasn't quite then kicked on.
I don't know. It's a mess. It's a mess. But I just love what's happening at Man United, given their handling of the Greenwood case.
It's probably the worst fixture for them this week because
I said that.
like,
Yeah, I said that before the weekend. I said if you need a win, like other than City, Brighton are just an absolute nightmare to play against because both because of their style, but also just sort of like
the context of everything that's going on. One really badly run club versus the best run club in football at the moment, and like everything's doesn't matter who they bring off the bench. They're just picking random names out of a hat at times. It feels like, and then they're just like, "Oh, these guys are incredible."
Everything's coming off.
Yeah,
like, they are. They're the antithesis to Man United at the minute, and I thought sort of on Ten Hag, he made yet another just ridiculous comment after the game. I mean, my issue with him is less the Sancho stuff. It's more that I don't know if he's just a pathological liar, or he's delusional, or it's his sort of way of deflection. But the man genuinely says things that just are not factually true. So, like, we didn't talk about this much after the Arsenal game, but he comes out and says, like, 4 refereeing decisions he disagreed with. Like, not one of them he had a case on. And then he comes out yesterday after the game and he says something about Brighton spending a lot of money. And then it's like, well, Brighton made a profit of nearly 100 million this summer. You've spent 450 million under your tenureship.
Hold on. Brighton, the squad that started yesterday cost £7.5 million, something like that?
This is what I mean, Ali. Like, it's just, it undermines, like, whatever you think of the man tactically, whatever you think of the way he handles certain things, it undermines his credibility completely when he says things that just factually are not true. He said something else about how he was pleased with how they played. Like, anyone that saw that game will tell you, they started, like, first 15 minutes, they were quite good, which I wasn't that surprised by because they're probably coming off a couple of bad results. Like, they sort of needed to start well, and look, if they scored, maybe it would have been a different game. But after that, they got a schooling really off a team that so well drilled, so good in possession, so good at pulling their opponents all over the pitch. Which is exactly what they did to United, and well worthy of winning the game 3-1. Could have scored more goals, to be honest. And I just. You have no idea what's going on behind closed doors. You don't know what's being said in the dressing room, obviously, but he's not eliciting the response from them that you would expect. And I can only look at what he's saying publicly and draw a connection between that and the way they're responding to these results in the games that follow. If he's telling them how well they've played and how they deserve better and how it was on the referees and how it's on other teams spending money, are you going to be that motivated to sort of come back in the next game and think, actually, like, we've got a point to prove here? No, you're probably going to think, like, we were actually quite good in the last game and just keep doing what we're doing. It will churn out results. Well, I'm sorry. Anyone with working eyes will tell you they've played 5 matches this season, and have they been good in any of them? Honestly,
nah.
There's a lot wrong there. And as you sort of mentioned at the start, like, I don't think he's in the imminent sack race, but you see the sort of first signs of discontent there from the fans when he makes the substitution, brings Højlund off, brings Martial on.
I think the fans have been with him is because is he not fit to play like a 90
for whatever reason he did it. The fans weren't happy with it.
Exactly, yeah.
And I just think it's one of those, like, Man United fans have needed sort of a cult figure to almost hang on to, because they had a playing group they didn't particularly like at the end of the previous season where they finished 6th. They despised the ownership. They didn't like any of the previous managers. This guy comes in and, there's a few home truths. He has a fairly decent first season. They win a cup. They get top 4. Is this guy actually as good as they kind of make him out to be? I'm not convinced. He's been there a year now. I honestly am not quite sure what they're trying to do. And I know it's worth mentioning they were missing a fair few players on Saturday. It wasn't their first 11. But Brighton also rotated ahead of their game in Europe next week. And this is the thing. So you've got a team that on a much lower budget that have arguably got as many first choice players not playing. And yet they look a lot more coherent and structured within what they're trying to do. So not convincing from United so far. And already after 5 games, if the expectation was to challenge for the title, forget it. It's not happening this season.
I've got the interesting stat from that game was that Milner is the first player to win at Old Trafford with 4 different clubs.
Nice.
What's his height? He might have to be short king of the week.
Oh, that's a great point. That's a great point.
He's 175 centimeters, so 5'9".
Yeah, that qualifies. That's short king of the week right there.
Short king of the week is already. He's 5'9". The short king of the week is already decided. Lovely.
That's efficient podcasting. Cleaning that one up in the first part of the show.
Exactly. Yeah, Onana's save percentage as well is 65. He's conceding goals he shouldn't. Like, I don't know what happened to him.
He should have saved the third on Saturday.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe he could have saved the Rice goal.
Yeah, the Rice goal he definitely should have saved because first of all, his starting position was pretty terrible given the time he had when Rice brought the ball down. Second of all, how close it is to him at the near post. Third of all, that it is a near post goal in a shot that he would have so obviously should have predicted. It's going near post. But his save percentage is 65.5, which puts him 7th bottom. But they are conceding a lot of chances as well. They have 29 shots against on target alone in the 5 games they've played this season. That's quite a lot.
Yeah.
So they're failing in all departments, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Fantastic stuff. Okay. Liverpool won again after another terrible first half. This will be interesting to keep an eye out on. I didn't want to discuss it on its own, but it's something interesting, a pattern that's forming. Bad first halves, but we win still. And our next game is against West Ham, which is a tough one. But not before we play in Europe, ladies and gentlemen. Liverpool play Lask away on Thursday night. Up to Thursday nights. Welcome. Let's talk about the Champions. Thank you. Let's talk about the Champions League. Arsenal, you get your turn this time. You get your turn. Fair enough. Champions League then. Let's talk about some of the predictions. Because I mentioned before there that Arsenal might make it to the quarterfinals. In my opinion, you're going to top the group. Like, your group is Lens, Eindhoven, Sevilla. You should win it easy. Where do you see Arsenal finishing in the Champions League? If there are, pick out some teams in the world that you would lose to. Like, you will go all the way up until City. You play X. Well, City.
We'd lose to City.
Yeah.
I think, it's so difficult because knockout football is just an entirely different entity. Because, if you said to me, would I expect us to finish above, I don't know, Bayern Munich over a 38-game season? I could see it. I watched Bayern on Friday night. I wasn't that impressed by them, to be honest. But if we played them in a Champions League knockout game, I don't think I'd expect to beat them. We've been away for 6 seasons. They've got a good record against us.
Scoring against Arsenal, though, doesn't he?
This is the thing. Yeah, but we played him quite well last season, so I'm less worried about that than I sort of was when we were trotting out Mustafi and co at centre back. But I think it's one of those, for us, I'm glad we've got a pretty winnable group. That's the first protocol, win the group. Mm-hmm. There's a few tricky groups, so it's people forget in the season we lost 10-2 to Bayern Munich. We actually topped our group that year and drew them, so you can get unlucky with it. I think, given the fact that we should win our group, I'd expect us then, law of averages, you should be drawing a team you expect to beat. But from there, it honestly depends. I think the betting odds have something like 4 favourites. You can make a case for it being one of the best 4 teams in it, but that doesn't mean we're 4th most likely to win it. We haven't been in this competition since 2017, so there is a certain there's a lot of excitement around it, from the fans and the players. A lot of these players haven't played in it, and it's great. But equally, you need that sort of know-how, and we've got a few of the City lads that have obviously played in it, which helps. But it's just it's the only competition where I do buy into sort of the soft factors more than people make a big deal about soft factors like mentality and leadership. and stuff like that. But in the Champions League, I think Real Madrid are obviously like the finest example of it. Like they've won that competition on multiple occasions despite not being the best team in it. Like your eyes don't lie to you when you watch it. So, you know, we obviously need to build that reputation. City, you know, to a greater extent, have been the best team in the world across multiple seasons and yet not got it done in Europe, and obviously only finally got it done last year.
Yep.
So I'm quietly like optimistic because of what you mentioned. Like we've got a good squad there. We've got a good group that we should be looking to win. And I think quarterfinals is sort of like par for the course, if you like. If we get to the quarters, I'd say like we've done kind of as expected. If we get to a semi-final and obviously further, then I'd say that's a good return. And it obviously all depends on circumstances of how you win or lose games. So we'll see. But really happy to be back in it, and just like more than anything, having a game, you know, in 3 days that I actually care about. The Europa League, one of the biggest problems with it is like you have a game, but like the group stages are a drag. Like, not rubbing it in, Ali, I'm sorry, but like
I couldn't agree more.
They are just a drag because like something has to go seriously wrong for you not to. I suppose they're a bit more important now because if you top the group, you skip a stage. So like there is a little bit more on it. Like when both teams would just go through and then you'd all be in the last 32 and you'd have 3 awful teams in the group with you. Like you're never going to go out in the group stage. But like equally, it doesn't really matter if you finish first or second because you should be beating kind of whoever you draw in the last 32 anyway. So there's a bit more on it now, but it's just such a like. I just couldn't get into the games really, so I apologise that you've got to go through that.
I am looking forward to seeing how I feel, but my feeling is that I don't want to take the Europa League for granted, and I think it will be very important for us to win it because we have a lot more competition for Champions League spots now. I feel like emergence of Newcastle and
there is one more
Brighton
spot.
And stuff. There is one more spot, but there's a lot more teams
likely to be one more spot
potentially. I think top 5 will get it. It just still depends. We don't know quite yet. But
coefficients, yeah.
But I feel like the Europa League is going to be an important competition for us, and the group isn't that awful. Lask and Union Saint-Gilloise and Toulouse. It's not like the pits, shall we say? So I can look forward to the games, and I don't want to play down the importance of those fixtures. But I feel like I'm gonna wake up on one Thursday night and just remember randomly that we have a game tonight. You know what I mean? Like I just feel,
yeah. Be midday for you, mate. Be the old 5:30.
Be midday for me. I listen. I work from home, and on Thursday nights I don't coach. On Thursday evenings I don't coach. So I'll just have it in the background. Work away. But yeah. We'll see. I don't know how fun or not fun it will be.
What might be good for Liverpool is
I can't believe we're talking about Liverpool. By the way, carry on. I like this.
Well, one thing I was disappointed about when we were one of my memories of being in with Sarri, which we won it in the end. But I remember the group stages. He just wouldn't. He kept playing like the near enough the first team. And there was players like Hudson-Odoi and Loftus-Cheek that like the whole thing about Sarri was that he wasn't giving these players a chance. And then when he finally gave Loftus-Cheek a chance, for example, he got injured. But in the group stages, it's been like the group stages of the Europa League are really, really good for bringing through like those youth players.
Yeah.
So if you've got like your man Ben Doak?
Yeah, Ben Doak.
And all those sort of players like Harry Kane he came through in the Europa League.
Harry Kane, yeah, okay, yeah.
Saka as well.
Saka. So like the group stages, hopefully if you're a Liverpool fan, Jurgen Klopp will play those youngsters, and that's makes it a wee bit more interesting as well. Whenever you get to see how's Doak gonna do, and the what do you call the centre mid for you as well, Bajcetic. Yeah. So
yeah,
it could be good.
Had a good game.
Could be good experience. Quanta, yeah. You need to do that Engelbert Humperdinck chant. Quanta.
That's going right at the start of the podcast, pal.
Yeah.
All right. predictions. Who wins the Champions League? We're going to predict it 9 months in advance, right, gentlemen?
Should we do it without Man City? I mean, it just feels like
other
quite
than Man City,
boring.
okay.
I mean, my concern with them, I've probably said this before, like I felt like as soon as they won one, the floodgates could just open and they could win like 4 of the next 5 or something stupid like that.
I feel very confident they're not going to win it.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I just don't think they're as good as they were last season.
Depth-wise.
Depth-wise, I think that'll really come into it. Yeah, I just have a feeling they're not going to do it.
Who will?
Although I was slagging off Doku, and then he went and had a great game.
Although he lost the ball for the West Ham goal.
There you go. Yeah, but he did take his goal well and did dribble quite well. But I'm still not sure on him. But I think I haven't put any thought into this, lads. Because Chelsea
just don't think it'll be City.
I don't think it'll be City. I think it could be Bayern Munich.
Nah, watching them Friday night. That was the first game I watched in this season.
They were same. I will admit, not seen a single minute of them apart from that game against Leipzig before the season started, which they lost 3-0, which was quite funny.
Oh yeah, the Super Cup
just
one.
signed Kane. Yeah.
So
the only 2 times I've watched them this season were that, and then I watched the game Friday night. Like Leverkusen are quite
phenomenal. Leverkusen are doing really good stuff with the players they have. Victor Boniface is just like kind of nowhere. I feel like.
You know, anyway. Granit Xhaka land in the minerals as usual in the midfield.
Oh yes.
But I wasn't like I was expecting more from Bayern because a lot of people sort of have been tipping them for the Champions League. I think because of the Kane signing and kind of Real Madrid haven't got a striker. Like this sort of it's tricky, right? By process of elimination, they probably end up the easiest team to say other than City. But like I'm not really seeing it, if I'm honest, from watching them. I'm saying all this, yet I've said let's do one without City.
I can't see anybody else apart from Real Madrid, which is even.
But I just don't see it. No, they're really dearth of attacking options, though. The striker situation's a big problem.
Nobody will win.
Problem.
Liverpool will win their group.
Liverpool will win the Champions League.
They're gonna just graduate to the Champions League and win it. Good, got it. Yeah. Be quite fun.
I know PSG have just lost against
they lost
Nice.
Like 3 games maybe from their opening 5.
What do we think about them though?
No,
I like this project going forward for them.
Well,
this feels like a better project. Like it's just more like less or they only have the one superstar now, and everyone else feels like a bit more of a proper team.
No,
I don't know about all that. Like that might be true, but it's PSG in the Champions League. So like, until such a point comes where they've proven otherwise, I'm just never ever going to tip them to win it.
And they just had so much turnover that it's pretty difficult to get any chemistry going, especially with as toxic an ownership group as they have. But that's just me. Real Madrid. It's just Real Madrid, isn't it? Boring. Maybe Inter Milan. What a season they're having. Perfect 4 from 4. Won against Milan, AC Milan. 5-1. I only watched the highlight. Marcus Thuram had Malik Thiaw on toast. I've never seen, apart from the screamer, I don't remember watching a center forward dominate a specific center back as in a highlight package as much as Marcus Thuram did it to Malik Thiaw. Their new center back came from Bundesliga 5, I think, for very little money, and he looks like a good center back. I watched a couple of AC Milan games before this one. He got cooked. So maybe Inter could be a surprise package there.
Who are our final picks then? Real Madrid for you, Ali.
Real Madrid for me.
I'll go Bayern. I'll go Bayern because of Tuchel in the Champions League. Go on, back your boys. Go on.
No. Let's not be silly now.
Go on.
I would really enjoy Arsenal defeating Real Madrid in a Champions League final, or Man City. I would enjoy.
Well, listen, mate. We've only played Real Madrid once in the Champions League in our history, and we did beat them. So, 100% record across 2 legs. But I don't know. Barcelona. Haven't watched the second of them this season.
Barcelona. They're doing good stuff.
Yeah.
They're doing very good stuff tactically.
Okay.
I hear. I haven't watched them yet. I just haven't never had the chance because I work on Sundays and they seem to play always on Sundays. But yeah, okay. Barcelona's a good pick. Right then, short kick of the week. We'll end on that. Although we've mentioned who it is going to be, but shall we announce James Milner as the short kick of the week? What was the record again, Fergal? That he kind of broke.
He's first player to win 4 games at Old Trafford with 4 different clubs.
Phenomenal
Brighton,
work.
Liverpool, Aston Villa, Man City.
Phenomenal work from James Milner. Deserved winner from a deserving team. Brighton are, just the model right now, I feel like. And a win against Man United, although it is easier to beat Man United nowadays, doesn't come that easy. And Brighton have done it. And thanks to James Milner. Okay. Thank you, boys. Enjoyed that one. Follow us on our social media channels. We have a new Instagram page, although I need to be a lot better at posting there. And the Twitter page, of course, at JAF_pod. At JAF_pod. I can't talk today for some reason. JAF_pod on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. You'll find us on podcasts, Spotify.
Okay Are you okay with promoting this amount of socials? Last week you weren't too sure.
Yeah, no, this week I am sure. Just follow us everywhere.
Follow us everywhere, okay.
Yeah, just find us wherever you can find us. If you find it, follow it. I don't know. But yeah, thank you so much for the support on the channel recently on YouTube. It's been phenomenal. And more to come, I'm sure. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the Champions League. And we'll see you on the flip side. Cheers.